So there's something new happening to the faces in Hollywood. It's happening to our biggest movie stars, our leading men, our action heroes. But it's a face you might not even recognize, because it's a face that barely moves. It's smooth, it's ageless, and honestly, it's everywhere. And it's making us ask some pretty big questions about the future of movies.
Okay, let's just dive right into the heart of the mystery, shall we? On the left, you see the Jim Carrey we all know and love. This is the guy who wasn't just an actor. He was like a human special effect. His face was pure rubber, an instrument he used to create these unforgettable characters like Ace Ventura and The Mask. Now, look to the right. This is also Jim Carrey, today. And my brain, and maybe yours too, has a really hard time connecting these two pictures. It's not just aging, it's not a bad camera angle, it's a fundamental change. Those iconic expressions, the laugh lines around his eyes, the forehead that could tell a whole story on its own, they're gone. So the big question is, how did this happen? And maybe more importantly, why?
To really get what's happening right now, we actually have to look back at how things used to be. For decades, Hollywood had this very clear, if unspoken, rule for its male stars. Let's call it the silver fox paradox. And this quote just nails it perfectly, doesn't it? For male actors, getting older wasn't a problem. It was an asset. Wrinkles meant character. Gray hair, that meant you had distinction, authority. Think of guys like Sean Connery or Harrison Ford or Clint Eastwood. Their careers didn't just survive aging, they actually thrived on it. While their female co-stars often faced this brutal career cliff around age 35, men were seen to age like a fine wine, just getting better, more interesting, and more valuable over time. And if you need proof, well, here it is. Just in 2023, Patrick Dempsey was named Sexiest Man Alive at 57 years old. Not 27, not 37, 57. And think about George Clooney. He became this global icon, a symbol of classic good looks, well into his 40s and 50s. These guys weren't the exception to the rule. They were the rule. Hollywood, and all of us really, celebrated maturity in its leading men. So that's the real puzzle here. If that was the way things worked for basically a century of cinema, what on earth changed? If getting older was a legitimate career advantage for men, why are so many of them now in this race against time to erase every single trace of it from their faces? All right, let's get into the evidence, because I'm telling you, once you start to see it, you can't unsee it. We're going to take a quick tour of the new Hollywood face and look at the different levels of cosmetic work that have become shockingly common among male A-listers. And we can really break this whole trend down into 3 distinct levels. Think of it like a ladder of intervention. It starts pretty subtle with what we'll call the gateway, simple injections. Then it can move up to the upgrade. We're talking more serious structural surgical work. And for some, it ends with the overhaul, where it looks like the entire facial structure has been kind of rebuilt from the ground up. So, Tier 1 is Botox, and it's basically become the male version of dyeing your gray hair. It's seen as just casual maintenance, not real work. You see it on guys we all love, like Ryan Reynolds and Chris Evans. I mean, these are men in their late 40s. Their faces have naturally matured, but watch their foreheads the next time you see them in an interview. They're weirdly smooth. They barely move. The lines that should pop up when they're surprised or laughing just aren't there. It's subtle, for sure, but it's the first step on the ladder. Now, in Tier 2, we move past simple injections and into major surgery. And look, these guys have access to the absolute best surgeons on the planet, so the work can be incredibly hard to spot. On the one hand, you got someone like Brad Pitt, who appears to have had a deep, plain facelift. That's a procedure that lifts the muscle and the skin together. It's masterful surgery, really, designed to keep some key wrinkles so he still looks natural. But then on the other hand, you see Bradley Cooper, who seems to have combined a facelift with an eye lift. This creates a look that some people have described as permanently stunned. His eyes are wider, his face is tighter, in a way that can look like a constant state of surprise. And this brings us to Tier 3, the complete overhaul. The transformation of Zac Efron is probably the most jaw-dropping example of this. He went from having this sharp, defined, almost delicate facial structure to a much heavier, almost square jawline with way fuller cheeks. Now, a jaw injury was mentioned as the reason, but the change is so dramatic and specific that many top plastic surgeons have speculated that it's actually the result of significant cosmetic work, like jaw implants and fillers designed to create a more stereotypically masculine look. So we've seen the evidence, it's pretty much everywhere, but that just brings us back to the most important question of all. Why? And why now? What forces are out there that have created this new, intense, and totally unprecedented pressure on men
to look agelessly perfect. Actors today are running this modern gauntlet of scrutiny that is just unlike anything previous generations ever had to deal with. I mean, think about it. Every single frame is filmed in blistering 8K high definition, capturing every pore, every fine line, every tiny imperfection, and then it's blown up onto a 50-foot screen. Then that footage gets screenshotted, torn apart on social media, slapped side by side in viral then versus now memes, and met with this relentless barrage of comments about how they've aged. For the first time in history, men are really experiencing the intense, microscopic beauty pressures that women in Hollywood have faced for decades.
And of course, the cosmetic industry has responded brilliantly. Meet Brotox. It's the exact same botulinum toxin injection, just completely rebranded with masculine marketing. It's not about beauty, you see, it's about maintenance and optimization. And with public figures like Joe Jonas now openly advertising these treatments, they've successfully gone from being a secret, shameful procedure to just another normal part of a modern guy's grooming routine. Kind of like getting a haircut. And look, this isn't just a feeling we get from watching movies. The data backs this up in a pretty staggering way. Statistics show that minimally invasive cosmetic procedures for men have shot up by over 50% in the last decade alone. This isn't just a Hollywood thing. It's a massive cultural shift that's happening all around us. So here's the thing. This isn't just about vanity or personal choice. This has a profound and, honestly, a potentially devastating artistic cost. It forces us to ask, what happens to the art of acting when an actor's most important instrument, their face, can't fully move anymore? The legendary director Alfred Hitchcock said it best. He said, "The greatest special effect is a close-up of the human face." And he was so right. An actor's face is their primary tool. It's how they show us grief, joy, fury, betrayal, every subtle emotion in between. The tiny, involuntary little micro-expressions that flash across a human face, that's the soul of a great performance. It's what connects us as an audience to the character on this deeply human level.
And this comparison right here shows you exactly what we're losing. On the left, you see Tommy Lee Jones at 60 years old in No Country for Old Men. His face is like a roadmap of a hard life. It's lived in, it's wrinkled, it's weary. That face is the character. It tells an entire story before he even says a single word. On the right, we have Brad Pitt at the exact same age today. His face is smooth, handsome, and it almost miraculously defies time. It's beautiful for sure, but could that face play that same world-weary role? Would that same story, etched onto a perfectly smooth canvas, have the same gut-punching impact? Which brings us full circle, right back to Jim Carrey, and what might be the ultimate tragic irony of this entire trend. Here's a man who became a global superstar, a comedic legend, for having arguably the most expressive and physically gifted face in the history of cinema. And he recently accepted a Lifetime Achievement Award for that very career with a face that can no longer perform the art that made him a legend in the first place. So we have to ask ourselves, as this pressure for perfection erases the very lines that show a life has been lived, what happens to the art form that depends on those lines? In our search for ageless stars, are we creating a soulless kind of cinema? What happens to the future of film when its most powerful special effect, the raw, authentic human face, is gone for good?